we have a big cat too.
What?
For the first time ever, allow me to introduce on SushiBites, CBT. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
僕はスタイルウェイジェネレーション階段を上がれ上がれそして越えますか繋がれますか僕の声の明るしかないような Stay away
この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
Welcome to SushiBites. This is Mongil Stardive. I know what you're thinking. This is a Korean game. On SushiBites? Are you selling out, EscapeRouteBritish? Is it NetMarble money? Is John NetMarble giving you sweet NetMarble money? First of all, a game being Korean hasn't stopped us before. And second, they totally eat sushi in South Korea. They just call it kimbap. And what's this about a CBT? A closed beta test, of course. Get your mind out of the gutter, you dirty, dirty man, you. Who'd have thought it? SushiBites gaining enough relevance to get early access to an upcoming PC and mobile game. Massive props to NetMarble for the opportunity to work together. Fingers crossed, this is the first of many. Mongil Stardive, here in MSD for brevity, is a PC and mobile action-adventure monster collecting game that is reminiscent of other character action gacha games like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. It is the sequel to 2014's How to Train Your Monster, a mobile monster taming game that is somewhat well known in its originating country of South Korea. In terms of vibes, it's kind of like what I understand an Atelier game to be like, even though I've never played one for more than half an hour. It's a role-playing game with relatively low stakes, where the environment and world building is way more important than the actual story itself. Not really surprising, considering the original Mongil doesn't have a great deal of story, choosing to drop information to the player in sprinkles across the game. MSD changes things up, though, by having a story campaign, chapters, cutscenes, missions, and side missions, definitely embellishing on what had come before. MSD begins with the main character, Cloud, not that one, waking up after a particularly interesting dream. He accidentally stabs a girl, she turns into a princess, and flies off into the sky. Turns out Cloud's dream could have been a premonition, but it could also simply be that he just got hungry. While searching for something to eat, he gets captured by an enemy monster, and his romantic partner, though she'd refuse to admit it, Verna, manages to save him from being eaten. Turns out the two of them had been hunting this particular monster for a quest, and although they managed to complete their quests successfully, they also managed to adopt a strange cat-like creature named Nyanas in the process. Not that one. It turns out that any monster Nyanas eats, not that one, gets shitted out as monsterlings, purely tamed creatures which you can then equip. If you don't like the name Nyanas, not that one, you can change it, but look, Trump is a band name and Obama isn't. Pointless political observations aside, you can't use the name Scunthorpe either, because it has, the word advertisers don't like in it. I think this is using some kind of standardized common bad words list, but it does limit your options, since these bad word lists are quite often large and feature innocuous words that are only bad in a specific context. I can't even call my profile Escape Route because there's something in there they deem forbidden. Soon enough, the premise of the game starts to unfold. Cloud, not that one, and Verna discover seeds that, when eaten, turn monsters feral. You know, like the gas from Detective Pikachu. Anyway, these seeds are revealed to be void seeds, and there's a whole evil organization out there using them to return the world to the void. In other words, destroying all life. Well, I guess that's higher stakes than most Atelier games, at least. So you're essentially uncovering the truth behind the Void invasion, meanwhile bumping into characters like the prudish Ophelia.
Mission accomplished.
Wrong counter.
I was only slightly facing the wrong way.
Or the voluptuous kimono Mimi nymphomaniac Francis.
If that's the case, you just need this.
Big needle!
Oh, don't worry. It might look scary, but I promise you won't feel a thing.
Verna, save me!
It's nothing special, but the comedy carries it well. The villains, once introduced, are quite pleasing aesthetically and look like something out of the Shivering Isles. The vocal work is actually pretty good. I think I heard Lisa Ortiz and Jamieson Price in here, among others. I'm sure there's some localizer stink here and there with the translation, but it isn't overtly filled with too many pop culture references or tired political jokes. Not much worse than wakey wakey eggs and bakey, that sort of thing. And the cutscenes are really quite fun across the board. They're animated with a lot of principles of good animation. The characters are really expressive too. Sure, the story's not up to much, but I got really invested in it nonetheless, thanks to the voice acting and cutscene choreography. I'd watch a show that looks like this, but I get to play it too? Best of both worlds. Now, in terms of gameplay, this is somewhat generic and basic. I will comment on this more in depth in a sec, but what MSD lacks in gameplay, it certainly makes up for in visual style, polish, voice acting, cutscenes, and overall feel. This is one of those games, like Okage, which we covered previously, where the game as a sum of all parts is greater than its gameplay experience. And naturally, I'm going to be somewhat biased towards MSD because I was given CBT access. You give me a free copy of a game, or access to a game currently in development, that's naturally going to skew my response to be more positive. That's just how it works. MSD has that Korean look. I've joked before that you can tell a South Korean game simply by looking at it. They have a distinct, extremely high-quality art style. You look at Inzoi, Dokevi, Mudang, Two Hearts. You can tell they're Korean games, and MSD is no different. The visual polish is through the roof on this one. Visually, no gripes, except maybe the pop-in on area loads. This is UE5, and seeing this kind of performance out of UE5 on PC with next to no stutters? See? It can be done. Korea showed China a thing or two here. If the Infinity Nikki devs spent more time optimizing their dogshit performing game, maybe their players would spend less time girl-cotting them. Video game? Oh, network is unstable. No, it's fucking not! I have no idea how MSD manages to have such visual fidelity and run with no hiccups, considering the wealth of gameplay systems here all constantly playing off each other. Well, that might be because I'm failing to see a lot of depth in the gameplay systems. There's a system to combine monsterlings, but I don't know how to get anything out of it. There's equipment with levels and experience, but I don't really understand it. All I know is, use the items I'm given, equipment level goes up, damage output increases, and damage received go down, something something. There's not a great deal of depth to combat either. You have a standard attack you can combo, and a special attack with a cooldown timer. No, scratch that, some characters are a little bit more complicated, with standard attacks that automatically charge up when used, which can then be deployed in a rapid-fire fashion by holding the attack button down. Each character also has a power-up move that deals a massive amount of damage and activates temporary perks, accompanied with a flashy animation. Also, during boss fights, Nyanas, not that one, can jump in to stun an enemy. Similar to staggering in modern Final Fantasy games, this leaves the opponent open for you to wail on them with increased damage dealt. Not a great deal of depth to the combat, but very satisfying nonetheless. Kind of like a middle ground between the timing-based gameplay of Oni-Chanbara and the mindless hack-and-slash of Dynasty Warriors. Probably made simple so it's playable on touchscreen mobile phones, but the buttons feel good on a controller nonetheless. Everything has a button shortcut, and it doesn't take too long to get used to the control scheme. Outside of combat, there's exploration. These environments are fairly linear, but there's lots of caves and corners with hidden items to find. Also, there's a ton of NPCs standing around offering side quests. Most of these are just fetch quests, though. Then there's even more gameplay systems, monsterling races, a bulletin board with enemies to defeat, daily login bonuses and missions. Sometimes it does feel like a little bit too much stuff was packed into this. As soon as you slap a real-world currency on any of these aspects, I can see the game becoming highly unenjoyable if not balanced properly. Speaking of currencies, MSD is a gacha. How does that work? Much like Genshin, there's a gacha for playable characters. The rates were fairly high in the CBT, and there's enough in-game currency floating around to unlock everybody. No doubt this will be finely tuned to extract real currency from players in the final release. To spin the gacha, you use a compass. That's this game's recruitment ticket, etc. In the CBT, there's two types of compass. The red one, Compass of Expedition, which is given at the start of the playthrough to recruit your first unit, and then the blue ones you can easily get during the CBT, the Compass of Promise. You can also straight up buy characters from the store with the in-game currency during the CBT, so I had free reign to give every character a thorough test. Though if I couldn't afford to test all characters, there's also a character trial for any recruitable character from the main menu, allowing you to see how each one plays before you get them. I know this is a closed beta test, but MSD still has a long way to go until it's ready for public consumption. I ran into a major progress blocking softlog when a boss reward chest failed to spawn. Reloading made the chest appear, but spawned me outside of the boss arena, unable to make progress. I genuinely tried for an hour to clip back into bounds, to no avail. This really sullied my experience, since I couldn't progress, but the CBT didn't allow me to delete my progress either, so I was essentially stonewalled. I did eventually find a solution. Because of the way MSD's events are scripted, the treasure chest spawns in the nearest boss room. I had to travel on foot to a previous boss arena, force an autosave by performing a suitable action, and then reload the game. After that, the game spawned the chest in the wrong area, allowing me to open it and force progress. It's little oversights like these that tell me MSD is not going to be ready for any proper rollout until at least next year. But that's precisely why closed beta tests like these are done, to find the little game-breaking oversights. Give enough monkeys typewriters, they'll write an episode of SushiBites. Give enough players access to your game, they'll discover the blurst of times. This is terrible. Who wrote this? Ugh. I did notice a couple of smaller issues, but nothing glaring. Sometimes items can't be picked up, mainly minerals and ores mined from rocks while exploring. Also in some cutscenes, incorrect characters' mouths flap. But these are all issues I can overlook since it is a closed beta. Also, some missing music and sound effects at the end of the story portion playable in the CBT. Again, that can simply be boiled down to unfinished game, unpolished segments. It's still pretty well polished nonetheless, but I have just one last major issue with the MSD, and this goes beyond closed beta test. This is, well, look, it doesn't need to be a gacha game. It doesn't need in-game currencies and the like. The basic story is compelling enough when these funny and expressive characters are attached to it, so there's no real need for this many gameplay systems to be working in tandem with a monetized element as well. If it was released as a standard $40 to $50 single-player RPG, I'd have no trouble recommending it. It reminds me of the recent Mana games from Square Enix, and I dig those. I dig those. Maybe I'm just not keen on gachas as much, but at least in something like Bleach Brave Souls, there's thousands of characters to collect, and because it's based on a popular license, that makes the act of collecting and leveling up characters far more compelling. Whereas I don't see MSD ever hitting 50 characters in total, even if the game lives for 10 years. And will MSD live for 10 years? I have my doubts. I genuinely love what I've been given access to play here, but is this going to be compelling enough to new players? I'm honestly not sure. It's fantastic, but you can't just be fantastic to compete with the juggernauts of gacha games. You've got to be better than fantastic. Because if you're not better than fantastic, then you're not going to draw people away from their already existing forever games. Mongil Stardive will find its small core audience, who will keep the game going for a little while. But I genuinely do not see it receiving regular sizable updates for more than a few years. Once again, thank you NetMarble for the opportunity to play this one, and I will be following its development closely going forwards to see if Mongil Stardive finds its identity and footing. I want the game to succeed, but given the cutthroat nature of the live service gacha game market, it faces strong competition from existing games with already significantly sized player bases. This has been SushiBites. Thanks for watching.